I guess I'd like to share a little bit more about my vision and my story, which I'm actually living the vision that I had envisioned years ago. When I first opened up my law firm, I really felt insecure because I felt like I had to have an office. I felt like I had to have staff and I had to have all these things in order for me to be considered a successful lawyer. And when I was first starting out, of course, I didn't have any of those things. And so I really had to kind of scale back and understand what exactly was my definition of success when I was starting out my firm. And I really had realized that my success and what I wanted for myself and my business didn't look like what my colleagues had. And that was kind of a rude awakening, where I really realized that I didn't want an office, I didn't want a whole bunch of staff, I didn't want to have a huge office space. It just seemed like there would be a whole lot of clutter. And what I really realized is that I actually wanted to have the least amount of those things as possible. I wanted to be able to not be chained to my desk. I mean, that was the whole reason why I left and became an entrepreneur, was so that I didn't have to have these ball and chain obligations that normally employees have with their employer. And so once I really got my ideas around what does success look like for me, and it was also more about the feeling of success. So I really had to hone in on my definition of success. And that really looked more like having the freedom to not work if I didn't want to, having the freedom to not talk to specific clients if I didn't want to, not having to be in any specific location at any specific time. I really wanted a lot of freedom. I just wanted to be able to move around and just have this sense of untethered life. And so I actually started having systems put in place like the cloud and virtual staff and all kinds of things before it was actually like the cool thing to do, or I shouldn't say the cool thing, but the necessary thing to do during the pandemic, where everyone was kind of forced online. I was already doing that 3 years before the pandemic because I had envisioned that I would not be in any specific time zone, I wouldn't be in any specific state, I wouldn't even be in any specific country. And I just wanted the freedom to travel and to move around. So when I was able to open up my firm, and when I really honed in on, and not just honing in, but taking real confidence in my own definition of success, that's when things started to change for me. So I was first working, trying to hustle for clients, taking on any kind of clients that would come around, and not really making any money because they could kind of sense that neediness. So after I opened up my firm, I got an office, I got some staff, I did all the things that I was supposed to be doing in order to look successful. And what I really realized is, even though I had those things that kind of looked like a traditional lawyer, I still didn't feel like I was being successful, because my definition of success really didn't encompass having an office or having employees or being in a specific location. My idea of success didn't look like my colleagues. And once I kind of defined for myself, what does my firm supposed to look like? What do I want it to look like? That's when I actually started making some shifts. So I just wanted to have the freedom, the flexibility to move around, to be in other places, to not be chained to a desk, because what's the point if I'm an employee, I'm chained to a desk, and if I'm an entrepreneur, I'm also chained to a desk. So what's the point there? So I really had to understand and have confidence in my own definition of what does my lifestyle as a lawyer, as an entrepreneur, as a woman, as a business owner, what does all that look like, and how do we get there? I've had my business for 5 years. When I first started, it was pretty slow starts. I actually had a few false starts. I didn't even really fully commit to my own business in the very beginning because I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. I don't come from a family of lawyers. And so it was very much trial and error. And then once I had like my first year in business, I made hardly any money. It was embarrassing. And I was like, I cannot have another year like this. There's no way that I can sustain myself again this way. Like, it's just not sustainable. And so I sought out help. I sought out coaching, strategy. I just knew that there was information out there that I didn't have. So I actively was seeking it out, and I was like, there's gotta be a magic pill to this. Like, there's gotta be answers out here somewhere. And I engaged coaching services. It was a blessing and a curse being in this coaching program. And I didn't know this at the time, but when I started this coaching program, I was looking externally for all of the answers and the magic pill and what's the one thing that's gonna like change my business. Newsflash, there is no one thing. There is no magic pill. And of course, my coaching program wasn't gonna tell me this. So there was like this long period of time where I just kept looking externally for answers, looking outside of myself to know what is the direction I need to go, where. Like, I just felt, even though I had these resources, I just felt like I wasn't actually on the right path. And it wasn't until I left that coaching program and had some time to myself and engaged another coach that was a little bit more personalized that I was able to see my issues weren't really business issues. My issues were not really like, what system do I need to have in place? How do I hire employees? Like, they're not these technical, business savvy problems that I had. What I really had was a lot of personal mindset perspective issues that were getting in my way. So essentially, I learned that I was getting in my own way by keep looking externally for answers to build my business and to create the life that I wanted for myself. So I actually started shifting a lot of my coaching to mindset and helping myself think through things in a different way so that I could always arrive to my own answer as opposed to keep looking outside of myself. And it would start with really simple things. The first thing I would do in the morning was read books and have like a little bit of coffee and then do my yoga to try to help me get into a flow of good mindset to support me throughout the day. And so once I kind of got that routine down, I was able to have some shifts, some perspective shifts. And then I was able to think more creatively. I was able to be more in the flow. Like, I just felt like I was connecting to myself in order to give me direction of where I wanted to take my business as well. After I did like a whole bunch of mindset changes, I also realized that I had a very unhealthy relationship with money. So I didn't even realize that you have a relationship with money, but the same way that money is currency, currency is energy, we all have a relationship with energy. And so once I really understood that concept, I was able to change my relationship with money. And what I mean is that I used to have this like love-hate relationship with my money. Why do you leave me when I need you the most? And it's also like, when you're here, when I have the money, it's like, okay, stay put. I don't want to spend you. Don't go anywhere. You have to stay here. And it was like this greedy, grabby type of relationship that I would always have with money. And it was a very big problem. It was a huge problem because it just perpetuated this cycle of needing it and then not having it, and needing it and not having it. And it was just this cycle that I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of go through. And it wasn't until I started approaching money as a person and how do I cultivate a good, healthy relationship with this money person, asking for forgiveness around how I would think about money. It was around trusting myself that I could be responsible to handle money. It was a lot of how can I change my approach to money and think of it as if it were an energy that I wanted it to come to me in a non-forceful way, in a very natural way. So healing my relationship with money was absolutely instrumental to running my business and scaling my business. And that was something that I probably wouldn't have even considered if I didn't engage other experts to help me, if I didn't have other people guiding me and helping me. I started putting in place systems, technology, hiring virtual staff that were not even in the United States. And I started letting go of all the things that were keeping me tied to an office. So I got rid of my office space. I ended up not needing to have people come into the office, so I would have them virtually work from their country. Of course, having all the technology that you need in order to show up for your clients virtually, right? So once I moved in that direction, I had to take a look and say, well, now that I have everything on the cloud and now that I have everything online, what is stopping me from now living my dream of traveling and running my business from abroad? And the answer was nothing. The answer was nothing outside of me was stopping me, but I was very fearful. So I was really, really afraid of not having a home and living out of my suitcase. And of course, what if I don't have enough money, like, to support myself? Am I gonna be homeless, like, while I'm out in, like, Europe or something?